大家如果关注新闻的话，似乎每个人每个国家都在惊慌失措抛弃美元，美元正在失去它作为世界储备货币的地位，会有新的货币将取代美元吗？人民币将取而代之吗？这是值得担心的事情吗？这是值得关注的话题吗？考虑到围绕其中的一些错误信息，我认为最好能准确分解正在发生的新变化是什么，为什么会发生，对我们所有人会产生什么样的影响。结论可能不是你所期待的。大家好，我是你们最喜欢的财经博主墨镜姐一粒沙，原创不易。如果你高抬贵指，轻松点赞或者订阅，这的确可以帮助我。先谢谢大家。今天我非常荣幸邀请到犹他大学商学院教授庞涛文先生来做客我的节目。庞先生曾经是驻香港、加拿大和东德的外交官，也曾经是驻中国大使馆的商务参赞。在讨论美元和人民币的走向问题上，他具有非常专业的知识，也非常中肯，而且他的简洁易懂的解说可以让我们快速了解其中奥妙。在我开始今天的话题前，先介绍本期节目的赞助商 ExpressVPN。 当您去酒店、咖啡馆等一些公共场所时，为了省钱省流量会使用公共 WiFi， 但是连接这些 WiFi 需要格外小心，这种公用 WiFi 安全性不高，稍微懂点电脑技术的人就可以轻松看到您在网络上做什么，还可以侵入你的网络，盗取你的账户名、密码和信用卡信息等等。我出门在外经常需要通过电脑或手机来查看自己的银行账户、股票交易等等，一旦账户被入侵，那代价就太高了。所以用公共 WiFi 我一定会使用 ExpressVPN， 即使在家里我也使用 VPN 来保护自己的隐私，因为网络供应商会看到我所有的网络活动，登录了哪些网站、什么时间登录的等等。像美国这样的国家是允许供应商把部分网络数据出售给广告商的，甚至某些政府，比如中共政府会强迫网络供应商交出信息。ExpressVPN 是福布斯、CNET、TechRadar 等世界大公司评价最高的 VPN， 它可以100%加密你的流量。当你使用公共 WiFi 时，它可以很好的保护你个人隐私等敏感信息。ExpressVPN 的使用方法非常简单，只要轻轻点击一个按钮就可以了。感兴趣的朋友可以点击视频下方我的专属链接 expressvpn.com/sunglasses-sister，就可以获得额外3个月免费使用的特别优惠。好了，现在就让我言归正传吧。在我采访庞涛文先生之前，我先用60秒让大家快速了解目前正在发生的事情。在过去的80年里，美元一直是世界上最强大的货币，因为它被称为所谓的储备货币，这是指一种全世界都接受的货币。自1945年以来，美元一直占据的这个位置，它被用作保持投资汇率和商品如黄金、石油价格稳定的一种方式。无论您持有哪种货币，其价值都与该货币的美元价值挂钩。因此，可以将这种情况想象成每个人都拥有的通过美元进行的全球价值转移。当然，美国也从中受益，因为更多的国家使用美元，更多的国家持有这些美元，美国就有更强的购买力。但目前美元显然面临失去世界储备货币地位的风险。在俄乌战争的问题上，美国看起来越来越依赖制裁，并将美元武器化，被认为会削弱美元的吸引力。3月份3家银行的倒闭再次引发了对其易受破坏性金融危机影响的质疑，这加剧了美元被替代的讨论。中国、巴西、俄罗斯、印度和南非正在联手试图创造可以替代美元的货币。与此同时，中国与沙特阿拉伯的关系引发了人们对石油人民币取代石油美元的猜测。那么到底美元是不是走到尽头了呢？下面我就请庞教授来给我们大家详细分解其中奥秘。今天我很荣幸的请到了犹他大学 MBA 教授
庞涛文
先生来跟我们大家讲一讲去美元化的问题。我知道很多我们的观众想了解这方面的问题呢，庞涛文先生是这方面的专家，我相信他一定能给我们非常好的见解。
Thank you, Eliza, and it's my pleasure to talk about something that's important to all of us, and that's money. So speaking of which, let me show you what we're talking about here. And the most important thing on this dollar bill is actually here across the top where it says Federal Reserve Note.
Yes.
So it used to be when I was a child, when I was a boy, most of the time across the top of the money here, you would see it say silver certificate. And that meant what you could do would be to trade in that paper dollar for an equal value of some hard metal, gold, silver. The general money supply of the United States was based on gold, but the individual dollars had a silver certificate. So they were just saying some valuable metal. And now it says Federal Reserve Note. And what that means is a note actually means a loan. So this is your proof that the U.S. government owes you the value of $1. Okay. We would call this an IOU. Now, it's not based on gold anymore. What it's based on is the ability of the United States government to survive, to have ample reserves available to be able to pay you. And to this point, that's been the case. So the only thing that makes this money is actually your belief, your faith in it. If you believe it's money, then it's money. If you don't believe it's money, then it's a bad picture of George Washington.
那么请问教授，既然美元过去地位如此稳定，为什么美元的汇率还会波动呢？
This is a very complicated question you've just asked, and a very good question. Every year in the international exchanges, I mentioned about $50 trillion are exchanged. Of that $50 trillion, only about 3 to 5 trillion are needed for actual trade. So the question would be, why are people exchanging money when it's not needed to buy stuff? 80 to 90% of this exchange is not going on because of trade. So what is it? Well, the answer is it's currency speculation. Money is a commodity. And what we mean by a commodity is it's something traded, coffee beans or cattle or wheat, and the market decides on the basis of supply and demand. Yeah. And money is simply another commodity. So what you can do is, if you can guess which direction the dollar is going to go, you can contract to buy currency in the future at a fixed rate or sell it. They call it buying long or selling short, which means if I knew in 3 months what the dollar was going to be, I could bet on it and make lots and lots of money if I'm right, and lose lots and lots of money if I'm wrong. Because this is zero sum, right? For everybody who wins, somebody loses. So if I'm a big investor, like a huge bank or a government, I can say, I'll go into the market and I'll say, I'm going to dump my currency. Well, if I put a lot of my currency into the market, it's going to depress the value. So it goes down, then I come back 3 months later when it's dropped and I buy it all back again. Okay? Yeah. So I've got this win on exchange, and this is lots of money. Now, you and I can't do that. If I take this dollar and exchange it, that's not going to do it. But if I were to take $5 billion, like a government could do or a big bank can do, and even if I made 1 penny difference, I've got a lot of money, from that. 1 cent gain on $5 billion is $50 million. And that can happen in a day. So what happens, because the market is driven by the speculation, is that we see the markets move. I'll put this another way. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen in the currency markets over the next 3 months. Okay. Are you ready for this? Here it is. The market will be volatile. What I mean by volatile is uncertain. Because the big guys who are speculating don't care if the market goes up or whether it goes down. Because they can buy betting that it's going to go up, and they can buy that betting it's going to go down. What they don't want is flat. So I can virtually guarantee you that every 3 months against the major currencies, the dollar will move 5 cents, because that's what's necessary for the speculators to make money. Now, the problem with this is us, because I want to go to China or I want to go to Japan and I need to change some money. Well, I have no control over what that exchange rate is going to be. I get what the bank gives me. In the meantime, the big guys who are putting billions and billions in here are moving the market up and down. What's the currency going to do over the next 6 months? It will change. Probably 5 cents up or 5 cents down. One or the other, it doesn't matter.
请问您谈到的这些大家伙 Big Guy 都是谁？
It's both. Governments do this too. The bankers do this, it's called currency hedging. They will do this. Governments do it. One of the European governments several years ago had a line item in their budget that was gain on currency exchange. They required their bank, the national bank, to make $5 billion on currency exchange. Well, look, if the government does that, somebody had to lose that money or they couldn't make it. Yeah. That's a form of taxation. This is bad. Yeah, we pay for it, and the government says we'll just make more money because we can put enough in to move the market. We'll just take the profits when the dollar goes the other direction. It's not good, and it causes this instability.
现在很多人都在讨论美元正在失去它作为世界储备货币的地位，您怎么看？
So the question then becomes that you've asked, is this going to be the reserve currency for the world? And the answer is, again, this is a matter of faith, of belief. As long as the people of the world believe that this $1 bill is worth $1, and they believe that this is more stable than any other currency, then this will remain the currency. My sense is, and again, lots of different economists have lots of different opinions on this, but my sense is that the faith in the US dollar is going to be stronger than any other currency for quite a while, including the Chinese currency. The renminbi is stable at the current time. The euro is stable, and one could ask, for example, the same question about the euro. Why isn't the euro the reserve currency? And the answer is the same. This is where the faith is.
请问您认为目前的中俄联盟是不是可以战胜美元？人民币是否会取代美元？
The Russian economy is about the size of the economy of Italy, which is about the size of the economy of the state of California. So I think that gives you an indication. Now, the Chinese economy is bigger, and I guess the question might be better asked is, do the Chinese really want to have the Russians as dependent on them? Because that's what I see is more likely to happen right now. With the current situation, Russia is declining rapidly because of the war and dependent heavily on Chinese. So if Chinese-Russian trade is going this way, it's not going to have a lot of impact on the dollar, ultimately. Your question is a very good one, but let me go back to the basic concept of this, because what is behind the renminbi? What that means is we need to look at the nature of the Chinese economy. What is it? Well, the Chinese economy is dominated by export. I don't want to get too complicated here, but let me just mention one word that fits, and the word is mercantilism. Mercantilism is a government policy that says what we're going to do is encourage exports and discourage imports. So what that means is lots of dollars come in, but not much goes out. And this has been the policy of the Chinese government since 1949. We're going to encourage exports, we're going to discourage imports. What that means is that the Chinese economy has become dependent on exporting. And what do they get back when they export? They get back these. So right now, in the Chinese treasury, there are about $3 trillion of U.S. currency in the economy, and that's what's driving the Chinese economy. Not just to the United States, but to Europe as well and other Asian countries. This is an export-driven economy, which means ultimately the power of the economy is based on how many of these they get. So what that really means, in essence, is the foundation of the Chinese economy is the U.S. dollar, which means the renminbi is the U.S. dollar.
请问您是否可以说说中国政府是如何操控货币汇率的？
Let me mention one more thing about this. The other thing the Chinese government has done is a thing called pegging the currency. And what we mean by pegging the currency is if you're exchanging money on the international exchanges and you have dollars and you want to buy yen or you want to buy euro, then that dollar rate is going to fluctuate. For example, right now the US dollar against the euro is about $1.10. So for every euro you buy, it takes $1.10 of these. Last time we were in Europe, we got $1.34. It took $1.34 of our money to buy one of their euro. So this up and down movement of the dollar is from the free market, buying and trading dollars openly on the market. What the Chinese government has done is they've pegged the currency. That is, they've said, okay, we're going to establish the exchange rate for the currency and it won't change. Now, when I lived in China many years ago, we were getting 8-1. And then after some discussion with the United States government, the Chinese government had said, okay, we're going to reduce that rate to 6-1. What happens when they did that is it made Chinese products about 20% more expensive in the United States. The renminbi price of the product didn't change, but the dollar of the price did because of that devaluation. Now the Chinese government has allowed that to float back up again to about 7-1. Your viewers probably know better than I do what the current rate is today. And again, but that's fixed. That will not change. And if there's any movement, the Chinese government will intervene and stop that. So this sounds like it makes a stable currency, but what it does is it makes the currency kind of scary. The Chinese government will not allow the exchange rate to vary more than just a penny or two. And what that does, of course, is you say, okay, so if the exchange rate is not going like this, up and down, that's stable. But the problem is, what happens if the Chinese government tomorrow says, okay, the new exchange rate for the currency is 20 to 1, or the new exchange rate for the currency is 1 to 1, whereas the dollar is going to go up and down maybe 5 cents every 3 months. Now we're talking about the possibility of the renminbi being devaluated by 10 to 1 or 7 to 1 overnight for no apparent reason that no one can predict. Okay. We don't know what's going to happen. And that's a real stability question. Because if you're keeping your money in renminbi and suddenly the renminbi goes one way or the other radically, you're stuck. You've got it, whatever it may happen. You could end up with Zimbabwe. I think it's really risky because we saw this just a few years ago when the renminbi was reevaluated from 8 to 1, or sorry, from 6 to 1 to 7 to 1, like that, overnight. Well, that's a big change, and that affects everybody. The Chinese government is more likely to evaluate the renminbi up because when the renminbi goes up, say, to 8 to 1, Chinese products in the United States become cheaper. That's why we wanted it to go down to 6 to 1, because we wanted Chinese products more expensive, so it would encourage production in the United States. The Chinese government, let me use the word again, mercantilist, wants the price high, the dollar against the renminbi high, because that makes Chinese products cheaper. So if the Chinese government has anything to do with it, they'll push it up. If they were to float the currency, meaning they'll take these restrictions away, who knows what would happen?
听完庞教授的解释，我个人也认为，美元作为储备货币，目前不会去任何地方。迄今为止，它仍然是第一位的。我们看到的大多数头条新闻，只是想要点击。我认为，与其花时间去担心这些没用的，特别是当有更多迫在眉睫的话题，比如关于债务上限的讨论，如果双方不能达成协议，这可能会对市场造成重大损失。美国是不是在玩火自焚？关于这个话题，庞涛文先生会在下期节目里继续和我们分享。我觉得了解一个正在发生的事情以及为什么会发生的事情总是好主意，这样我们就可以把精力集中在我们可以控制的事情上，例如你的投资组合是否多元化，是否存够了钱，是否有稳定的收入，以及你是否定期投资。专注于这些会让你赚更多的钱，而不是考虑有一天美国可能在某个时候失去世界储备货币的可能性。专注于你可以控制的事情。如果你还没有这样做，记得订阅我的频道和打开小铃铛，那将对你对我都有很大的帮助。感谢大家收看，我们下周六不见不散。